Welcome to Everyday Entrepreneurs Everywhere with your host, Chris Parker.
Well, hello.
Hello.
Hi. And my guest for this session is Marinka de Groot, someone who I've known for quite a few years. Have been involved in lots of different discussions, and Marinka is in the executive placement and search, which is a interesting place, I'm sure, now during the whole Corona time. What I've really appreciated about you is really your community approach. You've invited me to some of these network events and really connecting people. So that was so maybe introduce yourself. Who are you? What do you do and why? And how did those community events sort of contribute to what you do?
Yeah. So a little bit more about myself. I worked for a very large international recruitment company for 14 years. Mm-hmm. Started in IT recruitment, then later on went to the new executive search brand. But after 14 years, I thought the time was ready for me to start as an entrepreneur. And it also was a bit of a now or never thing, because I was over 40 and over 50, it's going to be more difficult. And my business partner, Daniel Costello, came onto my path. He is a British entrepreneur within recruitment, and he was looking for someone to start his Amsterdam office in something totally different, like recruitment to the recruitment industry. But I had a non-compete from my previous profession, so I couldn't do that for a year or so. We agreed that if I reached a certain amount of goals, that I would become a partner, and also that I could start an IT executive search brand. But then in the way I thought was best, and that's much more of a candidate and community focused approach rather than more transactional approach. Mm-hmm. Only get in contact with people when you have a role for them. We chose to do the candidates focused approach, and part of that are the network events and the building of communities for leaders within the technical domains. I did that at the previous company as well, and we started with our new brand Redefine Search very recently in the midst of Corona. So we couldn't do the face-to-face networking events anymore. But I'm very proud to say that this Friday, we're going to do the first networking event, and we specialized it. It's only focusing on digital leaders within retail. And so we want to create more communities like that. So technical leaders within financial services, digital leaders within retail, etc., etc. So build little communities of people that we like, that we know, that can share knowledge without us having a role for them or something at this moment, but to be prepared at the moment that we do get a role in, that we can act very, very quickly, and we already know them. For us, it's good as well, because we can continuously learn about what's happening in the market. So we gain a lot of knowledge as well, but in a very pleasant way.
Yeah, I've been attending some of your events in the past, and also in other areas involved in masterminds and stuff, and just having a moment in person or online with some of your peers that are vulnerably opening up, saying, hey, I'm struggling with this, and getting feedback, and maybe even learning that you're not alone in your struggle. That's already just so valuable. So how do you maintain some focus, because the recruiting and technology space, I guess to some might already be very narrow, but within that definition, it's already so wide. And so what I liked about your statement there was that you're focusing initially on retail in tech and retail. So how do you choose what to focus on? How do you?
Well, it's based on market knowledge, and also about the people that I already knew. To be very honest, I already knew a lot of people in retail or in tech. But we only focus on technology leadership search, so that's our core business. Nothing else. So not CEOs, not CFOs, just the CIOs, CTOs, or chief digital officers. And then one or two functions below them, so
Yeah.
that we really know the specific niche market. We want to know all the players, but not we also want to be able to think out of the box. So don't only approach the standard CIOs, but maybe also people that are not the best match on paper, but could be a very good match in personality. And to be able to have a diverse group of people is also very important. So young people, older people, men, women, from different nationalities, because that's creating the most interesting discussions during a network event.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm curious, with let's call it Black Lives Matter, but let's call it, much more broadly, the diversity tension or the dimension in humanity right now. How does that impact your work? As far as getting the right blend of thinking as well as other, types of diversity.
Yeah, to my opinion, but our focus are not the large listed multinationals, but they are the family-owned or VC-owned companies. They're also always a bit more open to change. And I think diversity within the board was always on the agenda, at least been for 10 years. So they want different types, and it has nothing to do with race or gender, but more that they want different types of personalities within the leadership board.
Yeah.
That's the diversity is based on that.
Yeah, no, well, I think we're both preaching to the choir here, because it's I think all the different dimensions of diversity are very important and should actually be top of mind.
Yeah.
And it's for myself as being in one way a foreigner in a foreign land, but I am a white male, middle age, so literally I cannot understand the consequences of not being a white male. So I think there is an obligation to have that, front of mind. But going back to different type of thinking, and we've had these kind of debates before, but maybe for the listeners and the audience, my experience is if you go through traditional, headhunter processes, those quite often sort of get the most average of average type outcome. They sort of, anything that's sparkly or different or unique, maybe it's too risky or scary, and they're looking for maybe something that is more safe to propose.
Probably.
Yeah. How do you or what is your advice for people who are different thinkers that sometimes have, like me, asking for myself, that have a hard time working through the system in order to get to those places that they could really add value? How can people succeed in that?
I think via your network, and we can play a role in that, because we always like to network. It's important for us as a search company that we know our clients and know our candidates really well. Also as a person, so that we are in a position to say, well, this might not be the type of person that you were looking for on paper, but please speak to this person, because we think this person can really add value to your company. But that does require a different approach, and it does require constant contact and liaising with also your clients, sometimes even on a more personal level. Just not only discuss business and what are you looking for right now, but also for what are your plans in the future, and what type of personality do you need to add value to that. But to look at it more in a more general perspective, also for yourself, really work on the network and rely on that as well, and not only on the traditional headhunters. Yeah.
Well, a little rule of thumb, or something I talk about and tell people about, is a 1-4-95. You could say 1-9-90, but I think it's more 1-4-95. That 1% of opportunities might come from actually applying to a job. 4% or less, I think, might actually come through traditional headhunters. And 95% plus would be through the network, and as well as networking with recruiters, but actually knowing people on a human level.
Yeah.
Does that ring true to you, or?
Definitely, I 100% agree with you on that.
Yeah.
So, I know many things.
Yeah, and so you started. I guess you didn't plan on this, but you started your new business right before Corona hit.
Yeah.
So that.
And when Corona hit, I hired the first person in January, but he could only start in mid-April. So it was in the midst of Corona.
So how are you growing your business during this incredibly difficult time for everyone? Is it do you have tactics or what do you keep in mind in order to balance business growth while there's so many things going on in the world?
Yeah, I think first redefine who potentially interesting clients could be. They shouldn't be they should be clients that are still doing well, also in Corona. So they're mainly very tech based, but also for the logistics companies, I think they found out that during Corona that their systems sometimes weren't perfect. The retailers that already have a large online presence or are going through a transformation at the moment are interesting. So that's redefining your clients, and then also using all these other tools like Teams and Zoom to speak with them. Of course, it's more ideal to actually meet people face to face. I'm very happy that at least the terraces are open, so we can meet people for cups of coffee on the terrace, as we do. Yeah, but then also using a new tool. So first conversation maybe via Zoom or Teams, and then now the time has come to meet both clients and candidates. Also meeting them with them face to face. I even took walks with candidates. It's really cool. It's a different way of, and you're much more open. I think if you have an activity with someone, if you do a stroll to the city, the conversation that you have is very different than sitting at a desk.
Yeah, well, I've talked to some other people that that are leading large organizations, and the informal banter and because if you get on a Zoom, it's very task focused. We're doing an interview, and a lot of the side chat where I think a lot of the magic from conversations comes up. That okay, here's our task that we're talking on. But then you mentioned something else completely random, and I say, "Oh, hey, maybe someone else can help you with that." So it's those, I miss some of those just random encounters or random topics that I think we miss if we're only doing things digitally.
Yeah. No,
so
I agree.
No, interesting, and no one can tell what the future looks like, but my thought is that there's going to be a huge amount of opportunity for people looking for new opportunities, and also a huge opportunity for even industries that like say take hospitality or HoReCa that have really been hit hard. They have gone through a serious time of reflection, as well as the logistics and some of the tech companies that have also been challenged because of the new volumes of business.
Yeah.
My thinking is in the next 6 months, it's going to be a time of major change. What's your view on that?
Yeah, I agree. And I think the companies that can change quickest will do very well, and they will benefit actually from the situation. If you can speak about benefit, because of course it's very sad what happened, but the companies that are very large and need a lot of time to decide and can only implement change within 6 months, they are at a standstill at the moment, and they will probably suffer from this. But you're right, it will force companies to reinvent themselves.
And do you have any insights into companies that are reinventing themselves, or how they're doing it very quickly? Is there? Maybe it's a hard question, but
it is a hard. It is a hard question, but I think if I had to speak in general, so embrace new technologies and embrace them quickly. We implemented a new CRM system. We did it within 2 weeks' time. Yeah. And it was a struggle, of course, and there are still these child diseases now. It's not ideal, but it made us look at our business in a different way. But also make your decision process faster. Work in an agile way, and not only in like it's done in IT, but also make your board decisions happen in a more agile way. And you shouldn't be afraid to make a decision. You can always tweak it. Yeah,
it's almost any decision now is a good decision. Just make a decision.
Yeah, but don't be on a standstill. Don't implement a full hiring freeze. Just keep innovating.
Keep innovating and making small decisions, and keep communicating, because as you're going to have to steer your organization, and if people hear you say go that way, but then you need to change slightly, then somehow you have to really communicate it. It's been amazing how call it digital transformation that consultants have been talking about for so many years have really just happened, and Corona, I think, really contributed to that. I'm also curious what I don't think we can sustain this. This I think just the mental pressure of the uncertainty and the level of change. So I'm really curious to see what the pendulum looks like when it goes back the other way.
Yeah.
But like your CRM system, so many companies have implemented stuff that's really helpful, really fast, and you can do it. Yeah, it is possible. So,
it is possible, and also the way that some companies thought that working from the office, and we discussed it before, is 100% necessary, and you should be there every day. I think that totally changed. And it will also make it possible for people to work for, let's say, accept a job in Paris and only be there like twice a month and do the rest digitally. Yeah. So the population at companies will become a lot more international, and that will make certain that there's more diversity. So it can be very interesting what's happening.
Yeah, it is going to be interesting. And other conversations that people have heard is that some of the opinion is that if you're fully remote or fully on premise, then those can be effective. But people are still trying to figure out how a hybrid, some people on premise and some people remote, how does that work? And I don't think that's something that we've really cracked yet. But there are opportunities to hire people from almost anywhere, time zone permitting, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I have little satellite offices, and not to be against it. For myself, I hated being 100% remote. I went back to the office very, very soon because in my business, I need the energy of people around me. But your office needs to be ready for it as well. So like this classical office gardens with many, many desks crammed into one space, I think they'll be gone as well. It will be more like a meeting place for people.
Yeah, all that. Smashing people into smaller and smaller spaces, and hot desks and stuff, packed like sardines. That doesn't work anymore. So
no.
Well, thank God, I think. So so a question looping back to how you operate your business. On one hand, you have a very human focus, community focus, but that also takes a lot of time because I think some of the more transactional agencies that really just see it as a number. I imagine per engagement they're more efficient, but maybe less effective. So how do you balance efficiency and I guess intimacy, efficiency and relationship?
I believe it's you can still be very fast, and I think some of the very transactional companies are not the fastest in the world. If you I think we're more effective, and we sometimes I sometimes have processes like from beginning to end that only lasted 2 weeks. But if you know your clients and your candidates really well, you can shape and mold that, and it doesn't take a week to organize an event. You can do that within a day. I think although we have a lot of contact with our people and value that human contact, you can still be really fast. And I know some companies don't even meet their candidates or their clients, but if you do this efficiently and are on the phone all the time in between, you can still do a lot more than those transactional companies.
No, great. So well said, because I think there's probably two really different schools of thought in your industry, just as a passive bystander, because there are a lot of the agencies that people rage against, that you never hear back from people, and it can be really quite cutthroat, but somehow you are really succeeding with your own style and your own brand.
But what makes it easier for me, if I'm not doing boot camps in the morning, I tend to be in the office very, very early, and during these hours you will not use them to to speak with people. So do all your admin and approaching of people during those hours, so that during actual business hours and sometimes even after work, because it is necessary in our job to speak with people after work. You can focus that on the human interaction.
Nice. Well, you mentioned boot camp. So another question is how do you maintain your momentum and your energy? Because, you've started a business which is not without risks. Corona happened, you hired people. How do you keep going? How, as you have a partner, but, really as an entrepreneur of a now smaller agency, what keeps you motivated on a daily basis?
Yeah, I think sports play a big role, a large role in that. So I do a lot of boot camps or go to the gym. But I value the outdoors as well. I also have a horse, so I go riding as well after work, and then it clears your mind. And then after that, you're full of energy again, and you can keep going. Because in those first few years of starting a new business, you will work hard. However, it doesn't feel stressful because I'm the one putting the pressure on myself and no one else. And that can never be stressful. But you do need to take your time to zone out. So for me, it's sports, also like cooking, creating something, a new dish or something. Also, you sometimes need to put your mind on something else, or just on nothing, basically. I think that's more it.
On nothing, or Or so, are you meditating then? If you're focusing on, is that something that helps you, or?
Yeah, I do that before I go to bed. I've got this meditation app, and it's just very simple, but it makes me sleepy because I'm a very energetic person by nature. And when I'm enthusiastic about something, I sometimes keep thinking about it. And there's 3 minutes of meditation and going. It's more like, I think, more mindfulness. Makes me relaxed, and then I go to sleep.
Yeah, and you do that with an app?
Yeah.
What is the app?
The app is Aura.
Aura, with the ring?
Yeah.
Is that related to the Aura ring, or is that something else?
Yeah, it is, and it's got a blue logo. I've been using it for years, and it's just,
it just works.
Nice. It just works.
No, it's interesting that as you're speaking, just that there are dramatically different personalities, because you, I think, are quite clearly an extrovert. You love human contact. You get energy from being out in the nature, and those types of things. And me as a pretty extreme introvert, people usually don't believe that, because I do like getting on stage and I do like meeting with people, but for me it takes energy. So I have to go do quiet things. I do my meditation, I do a lot of reading, I do my my own website building, my own internal geeky stuff in order for me to recharge. So it's I think also for organizations to realize that there are, the more you have diversity of personality and character, you need to have these different ways for people if people reflect and take time to settle their mind in different ways. It's never going to be a one size fits all. It won't happen. So.
No, did you read Surrounded by Idiots? No. But it's all about those different types of personalities, and how sometimes if you're a certain type of personality, you think the other ones are idiots, and you should that you should abandon that way of thinking as a leader. And other people are not idiots simply because they're different and they're driven by different stuff.
Yeah.
But I have to keep rereading this book because I have to be reminded.
Okay, well, I'll find the book and I'll put the link in the in the notes of this, because I think what I did early on, maybe it's also some of the assignments I get, because being an American operating in Europe, I'm oftentimes hired because they're having some multicultural, a Dutch organization's growing, international. And if they hire a Dutch leader, then that's politically charged. And if they hire a German or an English, but if you come in as a Californian American, you can sort of get away with murder. I love it. But in order to make that work, I have spent a lot of time on understanding culture, understanding personality, Myers-Briggs, DISC, and those different tools. Not only so for myself, because, early on in my life, because I'm very much in my head, if I can be walking down a hall in my head, completely ignoring people without even seeing them, and then people get angry about that. And so then when they come back to this, then you can say, oh, well, then you explain it to them. And, okay, this is me. And now I know this is really important to you. So I will be more on the lookout. And I think if you're, acknowledge that you are different and respect it, then things can just really move better. So how do you match personality with an organization? Is there a method there, a science, or is that really intuitive? Because
for me, it's intuitive, and there are methods, and there are technology for it, and of course you can do assessments. But in that sense, I do trust my gut instincts, and that's a difficult thing about my business as well. Because how do you teach that to someone else? I think it comes
over time
with a lot of people, just over time. Yeah.
Well, and I don't think it should be underestimated, because even I did my MBA at Nairobi, and Professor Lahotsky of our corporate strategy, his final lesson was him sitting on a chair with a glass of wine saying, you've learned all of these strategic methods, but in the end of the day, really, really follow your instinct and your gut and take time to reflect on it. So I think it's, because it can't be codified doesn't mean it's not super valuable.
No. And did you never have that experience where you hired someone and you, like 1% of doubt, 1%, but then in the end that always backfires. That 1% of doubt becomes the reason why this person is in the end not suitable for the job. Well,
my current state, I don't want to call it wisdom, is, and I think I got it from Tim Ferriss, the author and podcaster, is if it doesn't feel good, it won't end well. And so that's also why I'm, doing a lot of meditation and things, just to be as pure and connected to myself, so I can be very much open to that. Because even intellectually, it might make sense, but that niggling thing of like, oh, this doesn't feel good, and then I guess have the confidence to use that as making decisions. Amen. I think it's that's incredibly powerful. I think you have to sort of have both of them there. So we've got about 2-3 minutes left. So. Two questions I'll throw at you, which I know I'm not supposed to do in interviews, but is there anything that has really helped you simplify your personal or private life? And then how can people get in touch with you?
For me, what simplified my business and my personal life is to become an entrepreneur and to work with I never had any doubts about my business partner. From the first time we spoke, we were 100% aligned. And I think that's really important. If you start to work with someone, trust your gut instinct on that as well. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, beautiful.
And how can I get in touch with you via LinkedIn? Marinka de Groot, or my name, so Marinka de Groot @oliviesearch.com.
Okay, well, I will put the LinkedIn URL, and if you're okay, your email as well in the notes, so people can reach out to you. And I guess they can reach out to you if they're hiring tech executives, and if they are tech executive that are open for a change, to get in touch with that. So outstanding, great, thank you so much. I know what's on your schedule today. You're going off to the terrace to the sun to do some connections and human contact. So new artists, so there will be also be some contact with the animals. Outstanding. So great. Marinka, thank you so much. I really, really appreciated this.
Have a lovely afternoon. Bye.
Okay. Learn more at ebillion.com/podcast.